We now live in a world where our relationships, our data is all intermediated by Facebook, by Google, and so on. And here we create a network where that's no longer the case. And we have direct connections between people or between beings in this network, and they can operate from that perspective. I already mentioned the use case, obviously, of having access to your own data locally. I think that use case is pretty clear, right? Being able to ask ChatGPT not just about world affairs and so on, but about like, what did my mom say last year? When we think about what we can actually do together when there's no financial incentives of an intermediary, so we get the freedom to actually think of solutions that do not require money to operate. The sky is the limit, and that can be anything from a restaurant review to maybe doing science on a rare disease, and many things in between, just by collectively collecting that data.
Amazing!
Thank you for building that.
Amazing! Thank you! Okay, I'm excited. I'm getting excited. Because the whole bloody fucking logging thing, I mean, as background, right? I don't care that the standard exists if nobody that I care about supports it.
We're not necessarily talking about the market right now. We're talking about this market of people who know that Google sucks, and we want to
There's this idea of a portable community, whereas a community like Coherence, everyone can share part of the network into the collective space, which you can then annotate, and obviously people can then have that visibility.
This is fundamentally game shifting. And this is also going to be ready within the next 6 months?
Maybe we hold that question.
And there is a big part of the
journey.
story, but once you use this portable social graph and you go somewhere and you having those from a friend, it's completely different than from a random internet user. I don't care how many stars and premium marks he has.
Paradigm is inverted, and the apps log into you.
So it was just a way to kind of bridge the understanding from the old world into the new world.
Okay, and as a result of that, you don't have to manually keep creating credentials. You can just say use this persona. Just one click.
The second you say wallet, I get crypto PTSD. Because crypto wallet stuff full, I mean, it's only been superseded by Meta Business, AWS, and Google control stuff for just fucked up UX experience. The UX has been a massive failure. It's far from the only problem with crypto, but it's definitely been a key annoyance.
The idea is the knowledge needs to be available all the time for everybody, and it can't be siloed in one place.
I spoke to people from the Amazon that have a lot of knowledge that they would like to digitize, but they would hate for this knowledge to get into the hands of corporations that abuse that.
Most people don't give a shit about local data, and they just want it to not go away easily when my phone goes down the toilet.
We live in a world of the splinter net web, where there's geopolitical interests to cut certain countries out of the global web.
It's been cut out for years. China, Pakistan, they've all been cut out from chunks of the web.
Africa, which is the most populous and demographically the most stable geopolitical center, is living with Chinese technology that is cutting them out of the Western-dominated internet.
And it's also about incentives, because if we have cloud providers which hold that data, there's an incentive to monetize that data. And betray the users.
Our data is acquired by the virtual equivalent of some multiple motherfuckers following you around with a clipboard, going, oh, he just bought some shoes, and then trying to sell me the same fucking shoes for almost free. What's not cute is using my relationship breakup as a fucking attack vector for marketing. Like, yeah, seriously, this kind of shit, like, this is really fucked up, deeply fucked up shit. And this is like coming when you're at your weakest fucking moment.
I'm skeptical based on 30 years of experience, whilst ideologically finding the ideas very beautiful.
I want my name stamped on that, on the blockchain, so that when somebody else takes it and forks it and makes it better and makes money off of it, something comes back to me.
What Ethereum was doing is like the kind of like, they don't care if it's a machine or a human, right? We don't know. We just have this public key and this private key and the signature which confirms that you're the holder of the public key. And I think that abstraction is really useful. I think we should use it everywhere. That every app, every computer, every human being, every machine has a quote-unquote wallet, like a public-private key pair.
I mean, for me, the key thing is just removing data as in random blobs of things to actually meaningful. Meaningful, what does this data mean in a way where different applications can work with it? I'm looking here more from the user point of view.
Yeah, the user doesn't see it.
I'm kind of curious about verifiable personhood that can't be transferred, and but also it can be used as different personas, including anonymous.
And the more verified, the more real, the better. And I think that use case of real human is actually the most important and fundamental one. My view of identity is a being that I'll be able to hug at some point, given the right circumstance.
I like that we are sovereign in the way that we create our own identities. We can peer-to-peer attest them in our trust circles.
Anonymity is a nice to have in certain contexts, whilst crypto is being built the other way around, where anonymity is the default and anything else is a massive struggle.
And like the cryptographic, we need trust in data. It's on the device by default, and it's portable by default. We always started with like an open approach that we don't care where the data lives. Completely independent.
As technologists, we know how fucking expensive it is, and how do we muster the resources to develop standards, right? If we don't try and play with a really big dream like that, then we're just going to keep on bumbling, and the collapse will come, and all of those negative people will win.
The account thing is one piece which was missing in the internet all the time, in a way. Like identity isn't built in, trust is not built in either. The wallet has only three things, which is like you're able to authenticate yourself, both you're able to sign, and you're able to encrypt, decrypt. The identity is the summary of all accounted data, which comes together.
If you want to make a story, I think like it's important to make the arc to, okay, and how does a user who's currently using Google Drive and could use Proton Drive, why would they jump to Alilo?
One of the questions that we've been asking people is, how do you reuse your data? We're generating gigabytes and gigabytes, terabytes of data now on a continuous basis. How do we use it? We know how it's used against us. The ability to do collective sense-making on the world, where we don't have to trust any intermediaries like news websites and so on, or social media algorithms that try to hook our attention, but actually we can collectively make sense of the world. If we can actually prove that it happened at that time and in this location and whatnot, now the amount of science that I can do and the amount of trust that I can do, the way that I can make decisions, even
just builds a system which is super lightweight, which you can implement on any existing storage solution, which allows you to have those capabilities.
Important to know is that the topology of this network is not just a file in a database, but it's actually computers that represent beings that are interfacing with each other. A way to map the world collectively, and it can start locally and I can share that in different spaces. So this is an app, this is an app, this is an app, this is an app, and this app can interface with the data from the portable community or with the data from the user directly. So the app actually doesn't have any data anymore. It doesn't have lock-in. There's you log into the app and immediately you see your entire network that you're in of your community. AI training tools. Yeah, for non-tech people. So that we can actually, what can happen is that we create many of these spaces where people are coming together and creating these places of knowledge, of ultimately wisdom that can be used. When we think about coordination, there are different parts, right? Communication, decision, value flows, culture. By the way, we call it financial irrigation. So how can we, as a community, let's say, there's a very large meta community of 100 million people, which let's say everyone puts in €2 a month. Can we use this infrastructure and knowledge and tooling to design, either a bioregion or a farm or a river or whatnot? If there's actually enough annotation, we can actually track, for instance, the water cycle in a bioregion, right? Or if you have the design tools to help them make much less mistakes, we can much faster regenerate the land, for instance. You probably have an app which has your ID, and I can scan it with somebody else, beep, and now we have a connection.
Right. How do I log in into all of our bloody applications with one thing, not create a separate profile everywhere, all of that blah, blah, blah. The trust network, social graph. I'm really interested in this layer above. And I would call this, you called it design, I would call it orchestration and also journey. And this is actually where I see coherence being, because it helps people go on a journey through all of this stuff.
So we're all building this RegenOS, right? And there are different components to that regenerative operating system.
What happens if you're collaborating on a project which gets you killed or in jail?
Yeah.
And
Which in
what
RegenOS,
happens if
that's
this happens after the fact?
Yeah.
Like something turns illegal and now like all your association data is online.
Does it have any impact? Does it do anything in the world? Does it change the world? Do you see improvements, in the projects that are happening down here, this layer, right? They're creating an impact because now they have independent, autonomous, it's more this picture here, right? Independent, connected spaces that create value, that have an impact on the environment. Apply that to a school and educational system, and your whole system changes suddenly. It changes because the college credits can now be measured in different ways, rewarded in different ways, so microfinanced in different ways. This is all about coordination. This is about building these systems so they can work and coordinate together. This is when that's when it clicks and say, oh, that's how you solve that problem. You open up a space here, what's the purpose, what's the context, why are you coming together, what kind of people you're inviting in this space, right? And how do you make decisions here?
We're not calling it a social network, we're calling it a trust graph.
Right.
And that's what I've been talking about is annotating. Right? So as coherence, I want to add things. We had this conversation, here's the video, here's the thing, and then the relationship becomes much richer.
You can tap into anything you did at any time, in the past. And that's creating a different kind of graph that proves, first of all, you exist because we know, people that were involved in this, they recognize they can't sit in silos any longer. So that is, for me, a trend that is happening. People have been working on this for decades now. It's not easy. So we're saying, what can we narrow this down to? If you're in our network, we just need to know your reputation.
It would be nice if we're all connected, if we're all using the same system, then we don't have so much integration issues. And who owns it? Well, you do, and you do, and you do. And who owns your community? Well, you do together. So there's not even an organization that owns it. It's just you.
The whole point of the great coherence is to create an event to get everybody in the world working on different parts of this shit to talk together. I'm not saying that it means everybody will collaborate together, but I'd like at least everybody to know what everybody else is doing and have a clarity when they're duplicating why they're doing it. Right? I would love to upload that into there. And of course, most of the people won't be there, but even just seeing the 10% or 5% that are there, just put that on the roadmap somewhere. Because that's what I need as a user. Creating a world where people don't hate their jobs and their jobs don't destroy their mental and physical health.
The most rewarding jobs are actually things where you do stuff, in the real world with your hands, with stuff that come likely from the lab.
Imagine a space where your children are safe.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And we're regenerating land together, and it's being paid for. Like what's that beautiful? We don't need 100 million users yet, and we don't need $100 million yet. We need 10 million. And that we can get from somebody whose values align. And then we cross the next bridge.
And I fundamentally disagree with the thesis that you cannot make money and do good in the world.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. That
We all
was my
agree, I
point.
think we agree.
Facebook, the algorithm shapes what we see, what we look, and da. Tinder has changed how people have relationships. The algorithms, I want to create software which is massively people use because they want to, companies, people, individuals, which because of the nature of its design guides people towards building a pro-social society.
But the difference is with a systemic investor, it's not about I want to get to 100 million because then I get to cash out and make $1 billion on my 10 million.
No, I mean,
it's we want 100 million people's worth of impact.
The universalist delusion, I think, has been the trend in the West for a very long time. How do we apply our idea everywhere? How do we expand everywhere? And then realizing that locally something is different, something is resisting, something has another code.
Why am I alive, right? What does it mean to live a good life? How can I be a good ancestor? I don't have to run anywhere. I get to think. So, we're not going to create COVID, but creating systems, experiences, places which invite people to ask those questions, which the Game A world wouldn't, I think is very universal and very transferable. My dream is to take the gathering around the world, and not that it looks exactly like this everywhere. Everybody will have different questions, but human beings coming together in their tribes, in their organizations, in nature, I believe is fundamental across every culture.
Yeah, the trend is towards that. People are looking for different operating systems, right? It's the Fuller quote of, let's show them what's possible and then let's pull people over. We don't have to fight that existing system. We don't have to tear it down. It will just crumble over time, right?